Imagine waking up one day only to realize that years have slipped by, yet nothing substantial in your life has truly changed. The dreams you once cherished remain distant ideals. The goals you set have faded into the background, and the life you envisioned feels more like a fantasy than an attainable reality. You feel stuck, merely going through the motions, perpetually waiting for something, anything, to shift, but nothing ever does. Have you ever wondered why this happens? Why do some individuals take bold, decisive action and radically transform their lives, while others remain trapped in a frustrating cycle of hesitation and inaction? Today, we delve into a silent, insidious force that might be sabotaging your success, happiness, and potential without you even realizing it. This force is passivity, the habit of standing still while life relentlessly moves forward. It's a subtle, invisible trap preventing you from making the changes you inherently know are necessary. The most concerning part: most people never break free, but you can. By the end of this exploration, you will not only understand how passivity might be controlling your life, but also discover the most potent ways to dismantle its hold. Trust this, the final insight is paramount, potentially holding the key to unlocking a future defined by action, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. Passivity ranks among the most destructive psychological patterns one can develop. Initially, it may not even register as a problem. Often it cunningly disguises itself as patience, careful deliberation, or strategic overthinking. In reality, however, it acts as a slow poison. It keeps you anchored in situations that fail to fulfill you, allows fear to dictate your decisions, and convinces you that waiting is the wisest course, even when your intuition screams that action is the only path forward. But where does this tendency toward passivity originate? Why do some charge ahead in life while others seem frozen, unable to take crucial steps? Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades. One of the most influential explanations comes from Dr. Martin Seligman, often called the father of positive psychology. He introduced the concept of learned helplessness, explaining how individuals can become passive over time through repeated negative experiences they cannot control. In one famous experiment, Seligman exposed dogs to unavoidable negative stimuli. Eventually, these dogs stopped attempting to escape even when a clear path to freedom was presented. This same principle readily applies to humans. When we face repeated failure, rejection, or discouragement, we may begin internalizing the belief that our efforts are ultimately meaningless. This belief insidiously seeps into our mindset, shaping our behavior and, consequently, our reality. However, failure isn't the sole culprit behind passivity. Paradoxically, one of the most dangerous causes is something far more subtle: comfort. Have you ever noticed how easily we settle into routines? Even unfulfilling ones. The human brain is fundamentally wired for safety and predictability. In our evolutionary past, this instinct was crucial for survival, ensuring our ancestors avoided unnecessary risks. Yet in the modern world, this very survival mechanism often works against our growth. We become comfortable with the familiar, even when it falls short of what we truly desire. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and before we know it, life has largely passed us by. This constitutes the true danger of passivity. It doesn't announce itself with alarms or flashing warnings. Instead, it operates in silence, whispering insidious justifications in your ear. There's still time. You can start tomorrow. Wait for the perfect moment. But here lies the brutal truth. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And the longer you wait, the more inertia builds, making action increasingly difficult. Let's pause and consider a deeper question. What is the real cost of sustained passivity? What are the consequences when hesitation and inaction dictate the course of our lives? Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, offered a profound answer in his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. He argued that the primary human drive is not the pursuit of pleasure, as Sigmund Freud suggested, nor power as Friedrich Nietzsche believed, but the quest for meaning. According to Frankl, when individuals lack a sense of meaning, they drift aimlessly, trapped in a state of existential emptiness and stagnation. And arguably, nothing strips life of meaning more effectively than passivity. Reflect on this. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Was it during a moment of hesitation, avoidance, or waiting? Or was it when you stepped decisively outside your comfort zone, took a leap of faith, and actively pursued something meaningful? The truth is undeniable. Meaning is not found in passive observation. It is forged through deliberate action. This brings us to a critical question most people neglect to ask themselves. If passivity is so detrimental, why do we continually succumb to it? Why do we remain stuck even when consciously aware that we should be moving forward? The answer might surprise you, and understanding it can change everything. Imagine standing at a crossroads, fully aware that taking action could alter your entire trajectory, yet still hesitating. You rationalize, I need more time, the conditions aren't quite right, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow inevitably morphs into next week, then next year, and suddenly nothing has changed. This is the invisible force of passivity at work. The very reason countless individuals remain entrenched in lives that don't truly fulfill them. But why do we permit this? What hidden mechanism keeps us trapped in inaction even against our better judgment? To answer this, we must understand the concept known as the comfort trap. At first glance, comfort seems desirable. Who wouldn't want to feel safe, secure, and at ease? Yet herein lies the paradox. The more comfortable we become, the less likely we are to embrace the risks necessary for growth and transformation. Comfort feels pleasant in the short term, but often comes at the steep price of long-term fulfillment. Have you ever lingered in a job you disliked because starting over felt too daunting? Have you remained in a relationship that no longer brought joy, simply because the thought of change was overwhelming? This is the comfort trap in action. It seductively convinces you that maintaining the status quo is preferable to facing the unknown. However, the truth remains that life's greatest regrets often stem not from the mistakes we make, but from the chances we fail to take. Psychological research confirms that the human brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. Our ancestors relied on predictability for survival, steering clear of risks that could threaten their existence. In today's world, however, this instinct frequently backfires. Instead of protecting us from genuine harm, it often holds us back from opportunity. Instead of avoiding danger, we end up avoiding growth. But face the harsh reality, no one ever achieved greatness by perpetually residing within their comfort zone. Every individual who has ever accomplished something significant inevitably had to confront discomfort, uncertainty, and fear. The defining difference between those who succeed and those who remain stagnant isn't necessarily superior intelligence, talent, or luck. It's the willingness to take action despite fear. This leads us to one of the most crucial questions. How do you break free from the tenacious grip of passivity? How do you transition from waiting to moving? One powerful strategy comes from Mel Robbins, a motivational speaker and author known for her simple yet highly effective 5-second rule. The rule is straightforward. When you feel the instinct to act on a goal or commitment, immediately count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then physically move. Don't allow your mind time to hesitate or conjure doubts. Don't let fear creep in. Take action before your brain can talk you out of it. This technique works because it interrupts the debilitating cycle of overthinking and propels you into motion. Another vital strategy involves shifting your focus from motivation to discipline. Many people mistakenly wait until they feel ready or motivated before taking action. But motivation is notoriously unreliable. It ebbs and flows. If you depend solely on feeling inspired, you will inevitably struggle with consistent action. Discipline, conversely, is what fosters real lasting change. Discipline means doing what needs to be done regardless of whether you feel like it. It means making decisions aligned with your long-term goals, not fleeting emotions. James Clear, author of the bestseller Atomic Habits, explains this principle perfectly. He emphasizes that success isn't typically born from massive, overnight transformations, but rather from committing to small, consistent actions. Over time, if you improve by just 1% each day, these seemingly tiny improvements compound, eventually leading to extraordinary results. The problem with passivity is that it operates in the opposite direction. Small moments of hesitation and avoidance also compound, leading inexorably toward a life tinged with regret. However, there's an aspect most people overlook. Passivity isn't confined to major life decisions. It manifests in subtle ways every single day. It's the hesitation before speaking up in a meeting, the delay before starting a workout, the endless scrolling on social media instead of engaging with something meaningful. Each instance of passivity reinforces the habit of inaction, making future change even harder. This is precisely why self-awareness is crucial. You must begin consciously noticing when and where passivity appears in your life. Ask yourself probing questions. What tasks or goals do I consistently postpone? In which areas am I allowing fear or the allure of comfort to dictate my choices? What would my life look like if I decisively stopped hesitating and started acting? But before we reveal the most powerful method for breaking free from passivity, there's one more critical piece to understand, something keeping millions trapped in lives they don't love. Once you recognize it, your perspective on passivity will fundamentally shift. There's a hidden force underpinning passivity that most people never identify, representing one of the most formidable psychological barriers to action. It isn't merely fear, laziness, or a lack of motivation. It's something far more deceptive. Identity paralysis. Identity paralysis occurs when you unconsciously define yourself by your current perceived limitations rather than your inherent potential. It's the insidious belief that this is just the way I am, or I've always been this way. When you firmly believe your personality, habits, and behaviors are fixed entities, the very prospect of change feels overwhelming, even impossible. Consider this. If you see yourself as someone who struggles inherently with discipline, how likely are you to consistently adhere to a new habit? If you believe you're not a natural leader, will you ever step up confidently when circumstances demand it? If you've convinced yourself you're bad at making decisions, will you ever truly seize control of your life's direction? Your identity shapes your actions, and your actions in turn shape your future. This is why people remain ensnared in cycles of passivity, not because they are incapable of change, but because they don't believe they can change. Psychologist Dr. Carol Dweck, in her groundbreaking research on mindset, discovered that individuals generally operate from one of two core perspectives, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Those with a fixed mindset believe their abilities, intelligence, and character traits are essentially unchangeable. They tend to avoid challenges, fearing failure will expose their inherent limitations. In stark contrast, those with a growth mindset believe they can develop and improve through dedicated effort and learning. They embrace challenges, understanding that failure isn't a reflection of their worth, but rather a crucial stepping stone toward growth. Now here is the critical insight. Passivity thrives within a fixed mindset. If you believe your circumstances irrevocably define you, you will likely never take the necessary action to alter them. However, the moment you consciously shift toward a growth mindset, when you truly internalize that every skill trait and ability can be cultivated, passivity begins to lose its power over you. So how do you engineer this pivotal shift? How do you break free from the identity paralysis that keeps you mired in passivity? The answer lies in identity-based action. As James Clear explains in Atomic Habits, true sustainable change doesn't primarily stem from setting goals. It originates from fundamentally changing the way you perceive yourself. Instead of solely focusing on what you want to achieve, concentrate on who you need to become to achieve it. If you aspire to be a confident person, start acting like one, even in small ways. If you desire discipline, make choices consistent with those a disciplined person would make. Every small action you take serves as a vote cast for the person you are actively becoming. This is why action must often precede motivation. While most people believe they need to feel ready before acting, the reality is that action itself often generates motivation. Taking even the smallest step forward begins to shift your identity. You start seeing yourself differently, and once that internal shift occurs, momentum naturally builds. Yet there's another layer to this complex issue. Passivity isn't solely about mindset or identity. It's also deeply intertwined with emotional resistance. Many individuals remain stuck because taking action triggers profound emotional discomfort. Perhaps it's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, or even the fear of leaving behind a familiar, albeit limiting version of oneself. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain treats psychological threats much like physical ones. When you contemplate stepping outside your comfort zone, your brain often perceives it as danger, activating the amygdala, the region responsible for fear and survival instincts. This physiological response is why taking action frequently feels so daunting. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you, it's attempting to protect you from perceived uncertainty. But here's the crucial key. You don't need to eliminate fear entirely to take action. You simply need to act anyway. Every time you take action, despite the presence of fear, you actively rewire your brain. You teach it through experience that discomfort is not synonymous with threat. You build what neuroscientists term psychological flexibility, the capacity to move forward even when you don't feel completely ready or certain. And the more you practice this, the more natural and less intimidating action becomes. So if passivity is rooted in mindset identity and emotional resistance, what is the ultimate, most effective way to break free from its grasp? The answer is conceptually simple yet profoundly transformative, and most people never fully realize its power. Once you do, everything can change. The ultimate way to break free from passivity is to embrace radical responsibility. Radical responsibility means fully, unequivocally accepting that your life is fundamentally in your hands. No more waiting for external circumstances to change. No more excuses, no more blaming others, your past or unfavorable conditions. It means internalizing the profound realization that no one is coming to rescue you, and that every choice you make or fail to make is actively shaping your future. This is undeniably a difficult truth for many to accept, because it systematically dismantles every justification for inaction. However, it is simultaneously the most liberating truth you can ever embrace, because the moment you assume full responsibility, you reclaim your inherent power. You stop passively waiting for life to change and start actively changing your life. But here's where many people falter. They mistakenly believe that taking responsibility necessitates having everything figured out beforehand. They assume they need a perfect plan, complete confidence, and absolute certainty before taking the first step. This is yet another insidious trap. The truth is, action creates clarity, not the other way around. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, once shared a powerful insight regarding decision-making. If you wait for 100% certainty before making a decision, you will always be too late. He explained that in life and business, you rarely possess perfect information. You will almost never feel fully ready. But if you can make a decision with even 70% of the necessary information available, you should act. Why? Because action leads to learning, and learning leads to better subsequent decisions. This is why truly successful people aren't necessarily those who have everything figured out from the start. They are simply the ones who consistently take action despite uncertainty. They begin before they feel ready. They take small, manageable steps, learn iteratively from experience, and adjust their course along the way. But what about failure? This remains one of the primary reasons people stay passive. The fear of failure is so potent that they would rather do nothing than risk making a mistake. But here's the crucial perspective they often miss. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is an indispensable part of the journey toward success. Thomas Edison, when questioned about his thousands of unsuccessful attempts while inventing the light bulb, famously retorted, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This embodies the resilient mindset of countless successful individuals throughout history. They understand that failure is not a reflection of their worth or ability. It is simply feedback. It is valuable information. The only true failure lies in refusing to try in the first place. Chuck John Roy. Dưới đây là đoạn văn đó được viết lại thành một khối liên mạch không sử dụng các bước nhỏ hay gạch đầu dòng. So, how do you translate all of this understanding into tangible action? How do you finally break free from the shackles of passivity and begin living a life driven by purpose and momentum? Crucially, discard the notion that you must feel motivated before taking action. Recognize that motivation is often a result of action, not a prerequisite for it. Instead of waiting for inspiration to strike consciously, make action a non-negotiable habit. Simultaneously redefine your identity by stopping the pattern of viewing yourself as someone who inherently struggles with action or is defined by past inaction. Your past does not dictate your future. Decide today that you are a person of action and then consistently prove it to yourself through your behavior. Furthermore, lower the barrier to action, as many remain stuck because they believe progress requires massive leaps. The reality is that significant progress stems from small, consistent actions. If a task feels overwhelming, break it down into the smallest possible step. Want to start a new project? Commit to working on it for just 5 minutes. Want to build a new habit? Start with the simplest, easiest version possible, understanding that small steps accumulate into substantial change over time. Finally, commit to making decisions faster, as overthinking is a major contributor to passivity. The longer you hesitate, the more potent doubt and fear become. Establish a personal rule when faced with a decision. Give yourself a limited time frame, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 1 day, then take action and move forward. Because ultimately, life rewards action. Opportunities don't wait indefinitely. Time doesn't pause. The future is being actively shaped right now by the choices you make. So the real pressing question is, what will you do next? Will you continue to wait, overthink, and hesitate? Or will you seize control, step forward with intention, and begin actively creating the life you truly desire? The choice is unequivocally yours. And that choice, more than anything else, will determine the trajectory of your future.